So there's drama at the passenger rail agency PRASA. In just a matter of weeks, Group CEO Lucky Montana was fired. There's an alleged plot to kill board chairperson Dr. Popo Molefe. There are allegations of tender irregularities, financial mismanagement and the like. And on the other hand, the railway safety regulator says maintenance needs crucial attention. Good evening to you. Welcome to Interface. My name is Thembisa Magele. So before we talk to our guests this evening, let's first take a quick look at this insert compiled by Rosalia Whitehead.
South Africa's extensive rail network is at the heartbeat of its economic growth and social development. The country's rail infrastructure represents about 80% of Africa's total. About 2.2 million people travel by train every day in South Africa. But over the past few weeks, South Africans have witnessed spats at leadership level at the Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa, PRASA, that could derail the parastatal. Last week, PRASA board chairperson Popo Molefe released Group CEO Lucky Montana from serving his notice period because of alleged negative statements about the board. Montana's sacking comes at a time when it was reported that PRASA had spent 600 million for purchasing trains that were not fit for South African railways.
We have assessed the infrastructure both in Cape Town or the Western Cape, KZN and also in Gauteng. And we've identified a handful of areas where the contact wire height is lower than spec. And those we have started to address. For example, in Cape Town, we deployed our maintenance team.
The claims remained allegations, and the organization was awaiting a final report from the railway safety regulator. Experts say because of the large procurement budget, PRASA, like so many other parastatals, have become contested terrain for connected individuals wanting a piece of the pie. All eyes are now on the outcomes of the Public Protector's report on allegations of maladministration relating to financial management, tender irregularities and appointment irregularities against PRASA, which was postponed on Thursday. This was because some of the implicated parties approached the Public Protector for postponement because they wish to make representations to her on issues that are central to the investigation. The release of the report was postponed to next month. Rosalia Whitehead, Interface, Johannesburg.
Let's not leave you behind, guys.
So before we introduce our guests to you, let's tell you that tonight on Interface, we're asking the question, is PRASA in crisis? And my guests this evening are the spokesperson of the Department of Transport, Diane Rekotso, and also the CEO of the Railway Safety Regulator, Ngululeko Poya. Thank you very much to both of you for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Good evening. Thanks.
2.2 million people, Diane, using the train service every day. Should we be worried now? Are they in crisis?
Thanks. Well, PRASA is not in a crisis. Yes, the agency is experiencing a few challenges, which primarily have to do with leadership, as we would have seen the announcements by the board a week ago. Some of the changes that they are looking into so far as stabilizing the leadership level is concerned. I wouldn't say that PRASA is in a crisis. The trains continue to run at all levels. The 2.2 million South Africans that you refer to continue to rely on PRASA primarily for passenger rail services, moving from home to work and vice versa.
Right.
That's the primary concern of the Minister of Transport, to ensure that those 2.2 million people get to work safely, in a reliable manner, in an efficient manner, but more importantly, in an affordable manner.
We're going to talk a little bit about that and the how of it all in light of all of these developments, but I just want to bring in Ngululeko Poya here into the mix. The fact that we hear that there were trains that PRASA brought to South Africa for 600 million rand and they were not suitable for South African railways, is that true?
Thank you very much. We are in a process, maybe just to explain in context how any new technologies, new acquisitions that come into South Africa, what is the process that the regulator actually follows. One of the things that we do, which is a process what we call life cycle management. So during design, we request operators, even at feasibility stage, to make submissions to the regulator. And at different stages as they make those submissions, we make ourselves comfortable with the information that they've submitted. Obviously, what we have at this stage is that we've given a no objection. What a no objection means is that they can test the trains on South African conditions. You would remember, even if you have to approve or finally approve a particular new equipment of this nature, you have to test that particular equipment, what we call dynamic testing. What that means effectively is that in movement. And because South Africa is a particular gauge, which is not the same as in Europe, it can only be tested in South African conditions. So there was no other place where to test these particular locomotives than to ship them into South Africa and particularly test them.
But
so,
let me just get some clarity on that. The former CEO says you tested and you were happy. You gave these trains the green light. Are you saying that's not true?
No. We're saying we gave a no objection on the design. So that's why I was explaining the process. Now, at this stage, you are at what you call testing and commissioning. So the former CEO is correct. We have given a no objection in what we call for them to test under South African conditions, a testing and commissioning.
Right.
So what they're doing at this moment is testing, and we've given them 6 months up to end of August. And after August, we will then issue our report in terms of whatever that final report looks like.
So you have not already said that they are suitable for the South African environment. You haven't made that declaration yet.
We haven't made that declaration yet, but we've said the designs, they look fine. Therefore, they can go and test the particular designs. Once the testing is done, then that's when we'll make a determination around the suitability of this type of trains in South African conditions.
So, Tiana, you mentioned that the minister has also been looking at this matter very seriously. She's asked for an investigation. We heard that the public protector was involved in this matter as well. What is the official position of the department on just the boardroom shenanigans that have been happening?
We prefer to allow the board of directors of PRASA, as are appointed by government, to exercise their oversight responsibilities. They represent the shareholder, in this instance being the Minister of Transport. She has confidence in them. She believes that they are men and women of integrity who take seriously their fiduciary responsibilities so far as ensuring that the management of PRASA does its work according to prescribed regulations, according to prescribed statutes that we have in government. So the minister has requested the board to continue to look at all the issues that have played themselves out, some of them negatively, in the public space. And she believes that the challenges at PRASA are not insurmountable. These are things that every entity goes through from time to time. The most important thing is to ensure that the leadership of PRASA that we have currently in place should continue to make sure that trains run, people receive passenger rail services as they used to, without any challenges whatsoever. So she believes that the board is doing a good job. She believes that as soon as they've concluded the investigation that you made reference to, they'll be able to share with her all the details, but more importantly, areas which may require shareholder intervention.
Okay, we have to take a short break. Remember, if you would like to take part in our discussion here, you're welcome to do so by just finding us on Facebook at Interface on SABC2 or on Twitter at Tembisa Magele or at Interface on SABC. Do stay with us. And we're in conversation this week on Interface with the Railway Safety Regulator CEO Nkululeko Boya and also Diana Rokotso, who is the spokesperson of the Department of Transport, talking about what's happening at PRASA. And before the break, Diana, we're talking about the minister's position on the matter. But Minister Dipuo Peters has also been implicated in this thing. There's allegedly an SMS that she sent to the former CEO, putting pressure on him to pay a certain supplier who, we are told, is a member of the ANC's Progressive Business Forum. Did she do that?
It's a pity that in the heat of things, innocent communique, which regularly happens between a minister being a shareholder, the primary shareholder in an agency, will be misconstrued for anything else but exactly that. We receive communication from be it members of civil society, be it business people at any given time, even myself personally. And the minister at all times, she forwards that communication to relevant people as and when she receives it. I'm yet to see in the unfortunate conversation between the minister and another individual, which was now shared publicly, any point that refers to the minister putting pressure, other than her forwarding the messages that she was getting from this particular individual. And as an elected public representative, she's accountable to the people. She has a constituency office that requires her to share her contact details, that requires her to share her work schedule with those people that she serves. She's a politician. So therefore, she cannot say, do not communicate with me, even when there are pressing issues which, for instance, are being overlooked by those who are supposed to be looking into them. So I do not believe that the SMS content itself that has been shared publicly will point to any pressure on the part of the minister. I do the same, then it means I should be accused of the same. When I receive SMSs that have to do with RSR, the prudent thing that I do is forward it to Mr. Poya, for instance. So if that amounts to pressure, then I do not know.
Is she getting pressure to reinstate Mr. Lucky Montana? Because we're told that Satao, even COSAS have come into the mix. Some members of the ANC want Mr. Montana to be reinstated. Is she getting that pressure?
Not that I know of. And so far as I'm concerned, the issue of the former CEO of PRASA is between him and the board of PRASA. It's an employee and employer matter. And in this instance, the CEOs of parastatals report to boards. They do not report to ministers, so far as I'm concerned.
But in this case, Diane, as you know, there is very bad blood, from what we're told, between the chairperson of the board and the former CEO. So the minister would be expected to
And I think
intervene.
that's the unfortunate thing, where individuals are isolated from the issues at hand. At the end of the day, PRASA has got nothing to do with individuals. PRASA has everything to do with the mandate that it has to service the people of South Africa. So it's quite unfortunate that now is an issue between the chairperson of the board and the former CEO, while there's actually an agency of thousands of people which is looking up to the board for leadership, which is looking up to the executive management for leadership. And of course, the minister will be concerned. The minister will communicate with the board regularly to ensure that whatever challenges that are arising at the particular moment, or those which may arise in future, the board should be equal to the task, and the board shouldn't be swayed from focusing on the issues at hand to now beginning to discuss individuals. So yes, when the shareholder, being the Minister of Transport, is called upon to intervene, she will do so, but she believes in allowing the board space to do its work.
All right. Let's get back to some of the issues that Mr. Poya are actually at hand here. One of them is the fact that we're seeing a frequency in the number of accidents that are happening involving trains, with many, many people, the latest number from the last incident being 239 people that we're told were injured in the latest incident. Why are we seeing so many of these accidents?
Yes, we're seeing so many of these accidents because the equipment that South Africa has is obsolete and it's old. And PRASA is in a process of refreshing the technology, for lack of a better word. That's why you see them bringing new trains into South Africa in terms of locomotives, which must go through a testing process. They are also busy with the signaling upgrade in all three centers, which is Durban, Cape Town, and Johannesburg. Now, obviously, that signaling must be upgraded to correct a standard, but also the old signals, while the new ones are being put in place, must be also maintained. It is the maintenance of the old signals that is a concern for the regulator. And that's what we see. That's why we see the number of occurrences or incidents of this nature, because the spares are not readily available. The maintenance cycles need to be shorter because these materials or this particular equipment is old, some of them as old as after the World War II war. So all of those things need to be taken into consideration. And that's why we see, and that's why we say to both PRASA in this particular case and the shareholder, which is the department, that the issue of funding of the new rolling stock together with the new signaling is important, and therefore it should be monies should be increased. There should be significant funding put in those spaces.
But how do
so
you
that
do
is
that
protected.
when there are allegations of mismanagement, allegations of maladministration, of tender irregularities and all of those? How do you then pump more money? Imagine if you were the shareholder or if you were, a potential investor. How would you pump more money in an institution that looks like that?
I like that you're saying allegations.
Yes.
So I think from our side, I'll share with you what we do check. So from us, as a regulator, we believe that PRASA Rail is strong, it's got correct people and the correct men and women, and it has been led. Now, PRASA Rail is the agency we interact with. That's now led by Musangwa Mufi as the CEO. Now, we believe that the leadership at that level is stable. We haven't seen any problems, and any of the engagements that we have engaged with them, and therefore we believe that they've got the right capacity and the people to be able to deliver a safe railway system.
So are you saying that as a regulator you don't buy the story that there are these allegations? You're not...
I'm saying we haven't, from what we have engaged and the information that we have engaged with, unless something comes to our information, but our interactions that we've had and all the things that we've requested them to do in terms of our mandate, which is looking at safety. We believe all of those things are being dealt with, and we can assure that the men and women within PRASA Rail are able to do what they need to do.
Very eager to get your thoughts on Facebook and also on Twitter. Do send us your messages at Interface on SABC2, that's Facebook, or at Tembisa Magele, or at Interface on SABC. That's how you find us on Twitter. Do stay with us as we come back after this short break. Welcome back. We are wrapping up our conversation, talking about what's happening at PRASA and also taking your thoughts on social media. Do keep those thoughts coming. We do welcome them. And we are just trying to find out what we are supposed to do now as South Africans who use the train service and who want to know that our safety is guaranteed by the two gentlemen that are in the studio here. So let's start, just as in wrapping up, Diani, talk a little bit about the way forward. You've got, at a political level, you've got the former CEO saying, he's out, but he thinks he's been wronged. We hear that there's pressure to get him reinstated. You've got the board chairperson, Dr. Popo Molefe, saying he's not going anywhere. What is going to happen with this now?
Well, our primary interest as the shareholder is to focus on what the roles of individuals, so far as the work that we've appointed them to do is concerned. The issue of Dr. Molefe and him not saying that he's not going anywhere is correct, because the Minister of Transport has not communicated anything to him that would suggest that his position is being reconsidered. We are primarily interested in him continuing to discharge, working with the board collectively, their fiduciary responsibilities.
Is the minister happy with the way that he has been disposing of those duties and what the board has been doing? I
would hate to isolate Dr. Molefe, because he's part of a group of men and women who form part of the group of the board of directors of PRASA. So therefore, we look at their work collectively, because we do not believe in isolating individuals and looking at them as demigods, as people who, without them, things are going to stop. At the end of the day,
happy with the performance of the board then?
She is happy with them. She is happy with the fact that they are paying close attention to the issues that seem to be emerging at PRASA. They are primarily concerned with ensuring that they look into all the allegations that have been brought before them. And that's what the Minister of Transport has requested them to do, to conduct a thorough investigation, look into all these other processes that have been undertaken by other independent institutions like the Office of the Public Protector, the Auditor General's office as well. They've been looking into issues at PRASA. So at the end of the day, the board has a responsibility of putting together a comprehensive report which details all the findings of these independent institutions, but more importantly, the findings of the board and their recommendations to the Minister of Transport, because there are certain issues which they'll be equal to the task to deal with, for instance, but there are certain issues which will require shareholder intervention, and they'll indicate through that report that the minister has requested from them where the minister ought to intervene. But otherwise, we believe that they are better placed to deal with issues that have to do with human resources at PRASA. And yes, indeed, you've raised the issue of, repeatedly, the issue of rumors of pressure on the minister to reinstate the former CEO of PRASA. At the end of the day, if there is a labor matter between the former CEO of PRASA and the board, it's an issue that they can sort out at their level. There are avenues which an individual who feels wronged or who feels that they have been dealt with unlawfully can approach for those issues to be looked into. So we shouldn't allow a situation where we are detracted from the primary mandate of providing passenger rail services to the people of South Africa.
So you can't tell us if he's coming back or not, the former CEO?
I wouldn't know. I wish I was a Sanusi, then I'll be able to see tomorrow. But so far as where I stand now, the board of directors has made an announcement that this is the conclusion, the decision that they've come to, and gave reasons for that. They equally informed the Minister of Transport of their decision and the reasons thereof. The most important thing that we want to reassure South Africans as the Department of Transport is that we will do everything in our power to ensure that we give the board the support that it requires, to ensure that all the divisions of PRASA, because there are about 4 or 5 divisions at PRASA beyond the group level, continue to discharge their responsibilities on a day-to-day basis as expected by the people of South Africa. We are running out of time,
but I do have to ask you this. We heard that Dr. Daniel Mtimkulu, the PRASA chief engineer, has been suspended over issues with his qualifications. What lessons can we learn from that? Or what lessons have you as the regulator learned from that?
Yes, I think one of the things that we have, I suppose, as lessons that we have learned as a regulator, is to ensure that in part of our processes that we also request issues of, especially for what we call critical grades within the railway system, that we are in a process at the moment which is what we call a certification of safety critical grades, because it's something that we have done over the last year, and we will be publishing through the minister this year a regulation that deals with that. Now that regulation says anyone who's a safety critical grade, we will certify as a regulator and therefore make sure that those people have a certificate to be able to carry out those particular duties.
Why wasn't it done before though?
Sorry?
Why wasn't it done before?
No, but remember, it's a process. I mean, the mere fact that this was not done before, because remember, engineers in particular, in this particular country, get to be registered with the Engineering Council of South Africa. Now, we didn't see any part and any reasons why we should duplicate those particular efforts. And we still don't see that. Probably what we will do is have some sort of a memorandum of understanding with the Engineering Council so that we can have better information as a regulator. But we don't have an interest of duplicating those particular structures, because that structure is in place and is competently working. 7
more trains coming in a month's time. Is that still going to go ahead in light of all of these allegations?
I think what needs to be understood is that the regulator gave a stage approval, what we call a no objection. It means the design of these particular locomotives are fine. There's nothing wrong with the designs. What is most important for us is that we need to test these in South African conditions. South Africa has got a different type of overhead wires, which is a 30 kV lines, 25 kV lines, and 3 kV lines. All of those have got different safety requirements. So all of those need to be tested to see within what conditions are these particular trains.
But it is in the process of all of this testing that all of these allegations have come forth, that these trains are above the height that they're supposed to be. Are you taking that into consideration? Are you sending these trains back because of that?
Let's correct that. It is not in the part of this testing that these allegations have come through.
Okay.
These allegations have come through because people want to preempt the regulator's decision. And I am saying from where we're sitting, we will follow our processes as a regulator, we will take our time, and we will make sure that when we give a no objection for the final approval during the operational level, that we do that having looked at all things considered.
Unfortunately, we've run out of time. This is definitely a topic that we will take offline, because I'm still a little bit unclear now whether or not these trains are above the height that is prescribed in South Africa. But you will tell us that, and we'll continue the conversation with our viewers on social media. Thank you so much to our guests for coming through to talk to us about this matter, and thanks to you for joining us on the program. To join us next week at the same time. From me, Tembisa Machele, and the team, goodbye.